the question is, what did he observe when he was there? Because there were underage girls, namely children, who were being sexually abused at those locations.
Joining me now is Gloria Allred, who has represented many of the people victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Hello to you.
Hello.
What are, in your view, the legal implications of the fresh information which is coming out as a result of the publication of the Epstein files?
Well, depends on who you're talking about. I want to say that I represent more than 20 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, and there has been a delay in publishing to the public the Epstein files that were required to be published by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and they were supposed to be published in December. The reason that the Department of Justice gave for the delay was that they were trying to protect the names of victims. But yesterday, and even before yesterday, but yesterday in particular, they did publish what they said were going to be the last files that they were going to release, even though millions more were not going to be released. And in that dump, so to speak, of files, they revealed many of the names of the survivors, including some that I represent. And not only did they publish the names, but often they published identifying information about them, documents, emails, photos, uh, texts, uh, travel information, so much. And it's very, very upsetting to many of the survivors. I'm going to say traumatic because that's what it's been. They trusted the government when they provided information to Homeland Security, the FBI, and prosecutors. And they were told that that would all be kept confidential, except if they would be testifying at a trial, which they never did. And so this is very disturbing to them. It's a betrayal of their trust. Yesterday, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, said that he hoped that the publication of these files would give these survivors closure. Well, betraying their trust and publishing their names, photos, and other identifying information doesn't give them closure. It just adds to the trauma that they have experienced for so many years. For so many years, there has been a denial of justice to these survivors. And once again, the Department of Justice has betrayed them and denied them the justice which they so richly deserve.
Do you think this is a result of malice or incompetence?
At best, it's incompetence. At worst, it's either a cover up or perhaps the many survivors are being punished because other survivors spoke out. Only one of the number of survivors that I represent chose to speak out and reveal her name. Many others were Jane Does and did not ever give an interview. So, why are the survivors, in a sense, being punished by having their names published, while many of the men, the rich, powerful, famous men, uh, some of whom may have conspired with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually traffic underage girls or sexually abuse them or sexually abuse adult females. Why are their names not in the files? And for those who are revealed there or allegations made against them, why have they not been prosecuted? And why did Todd Blanche say yesterday that no men will be prosecuted?
And under US law, should the survivors be entitled to anonymity, even if this went to prosecution?
Well, if there was a prosecution, Uh, the defendant, who was the accused, would be entitled to know their true name, but they may be able to be a Jane Doe when they testify publicly in a court of law.
But as you said, Todd Blanche said yesterday that there wouldn't be any further prosecutions. Do you feel that the evidence which has been produced should lead to prosecutions?
Well, I'm not privy to all of the evidence because all of the files have not been released. So I'm not in a
No, but
position.
on the basis of what is now in the public domain.
Well, I can only say that there is no trust anymore from many of the survivors in the Department of Justice. And because they should be ashamed of themselves for the way they mishandled all of these files and have hurt so many of the survivors, I don't know if any of them would be willing to testify, given how they have been hurt, how their reputations have been harmed. In some cases, even when they released the names, they didn't put it in context. So their reputations have been hurt under the circumstances because the context was not given. I don't know if any of them would be willing to testify at this point.
I suppose what I'm really asking is where your legal work on behalf of your clients and the survivors, where that goes from here.
Uh, that's something that I cannot discuss at this point.
I just not specifically, but I just wonder in general areas if they say they're not going to be any further prosecutions, what are the options?
Well, that's something that I would be discussing with my clients, and I'm not going to comment on it at this time, but thank you for asking. I will say it will be interesting to see what Ms. Maxwell has to say in the upcoming congressional hearing, which is scheduled very soon.
And it's the British Prime Minister has said this weekend that he feels that uh, former Prince Andrew should give evidence to the FBI. Um, do you think he should?
Well, I'm very glad that you asked that question because literally for years, I have been calling on Andrew, formerly known as Prince, to speak out, to give an interview to the FBI or Homeland Security. Many years ago, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York publicly called on Andrew to speak to the FBI or Homeland Security and disclose what he knows. He has declined to do so. I even hired a school bus in London to go around Buckingham Palace with a sign on it with a photo of then Prince Andrew. And it said, if you see this man, please ask him to call the FBI. And then I gave the FBI's number and I said www.gloriaallred.com. Um, he has denied any criminal wrongdoing. Having said that, he was at a crime scene. He was at a crime scene, meaning he stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's residence in Manhattan, at his ranch at Little St. James Island, and perhaps elsewhere. And the question is, what did he observe when he was there? Because there were underage girls, namely children, who were being sexually abused at those locations. Uh, what did he observe? Did he observe young girls there? Did he observe adult females there? What was he observing? Who did he observe them with? What was he at? Did he ask any questions? What were the answers? There's so many questions that he could answer. Why not? Anyone who was at a crime scene, even if they were not involved at a crime, should be willing to help a victim by talking to law enforcement and answering their questions, because even though they think they have nothing to say that would help, it may be that even the smallest detail that they could provide could help uh, in an investigation and or a prosecution. But he refuses to speak. So I have been literally publicly calling for years for Andrew to do so. Uh, of course, we know about his disastrous, catastrophic interview on the BBC. Hasn't been heard from since on this except to deny anything. It is interesting that he settled the lawsuit against him with Virginia Giuffre um, before he had to give a deposition testimony under oath. And since it was settled, he never had to give his testimony. Is that
If
why?
if
Is
if
that
he,
why he settled at this point? I don't know. Okay. But the point is, I certainly agree. And I'm glad the Prime Minister has spoken out about what would be the appropriate thing for Andrew to do.
and technically, if he were to cooperate, would he be putting himself in legal jeopardy under US law potentially?
Well, if he's under oath, he has a duty to tell the truth. If he speaks to law enforcement under U.S. law, meaning U.S. law enforcement, even if he is not under oath when he does so, he does have a legal duty to tell the truth. And there have been people who have been prosecuted for perjury for lying to law enforcement. It's not a smart thing to do.
Even
I'm going to have to go in a minute or so,
Yeah.
but feel
Okay.
free to ask another
I've
question.
just got one final question I want
Sure.
to ask you. In the material which was released yesterday, there were some very lurid allegations made against Donald Trump by callers, and things were listed. But in advance, the Department of Justice said that those had been dismissed and that there was nothing in them. Do you accept that?
Well, I don't know what kind of investigation they did. So, given that I don't know, for example, did they take any of those calls to the tip line, which is what I think you're referring to? Uh, Seriously, did they follow up? What kind of investigation, if any, did they do? I don't know. It's very, very strange, and I think unusual that there would even be any comment about whether to believe or not believe comments or calls made to a tip line. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what they did, so I can't reach a conclusion or fail to do.
In your opinion, what you've heard from your clients, do you think there is anything that Donald Trump has to answer for?
I think in the court of public opinion, many people uh, have concerns that I think he should address.